Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for August 20th through 26th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 2 shows, and I listened to 2 books. First this week I read Wake, The Hidden History of Women-Led Slave Revolts. This one is actually a graphic novel, and it started out as a dissertation and was later changed into a graphic novel after a Kickstarter campaign. The art in this one is just done in black and white, and it both goes over the time where the author was looking up all of this information in various different places around the world for this dissertation, as well as the history she found. This is both a very dense read and a very important read because there's not a lot you can actually find on this subject, because many people writing about this subject in the time frame where it was happening didn't really care about women and really didn't care about enslaved people. And sometimes that was to the detriment of their own causes because they couldn't even consider that women would start an uprising. I found this incredibly informative, especially considering we didn't really learn a lot about this subject when I was in school. The other nonfiction book I finished this week is The Power of Writing It Down. This is all about just expressive writing and how it can actually help you internally figure out different things to your life, your emotions, figure out what you want to do with your time, and figure out how to heal from things in your past. This author has worked with many different people on whatever types of manuscripts they want to work on, whether or not it's something they want to publish or whether or not it's something they just want for themselves, whether or not it's a novel, whether or not it's a memoir, whether or not it's any type of writing, and then also hosts workshops as well. This book also drew on a lot of personal anecdotes to get points across, and I really enjoyed that style of writing, actually. This is one of those weird books where you feel like you read a whole book on a subject and you can't really tell people like how to write, because that's not what this is. This is just all about the power that you potentially can possess by actually sitting down and writing. We do think of writing as this thing that like only writers can do, and even if we do write a little, we don't necessarily consider ourselves writers, when just the act of writing things down makes you a writer. And it tends to be somewhere along the way where we're told that we're not actually writers and we kind of fall out of it. Especially if you were like me as a kid and you had to fill out little things for class, I'd be like, and what are your hobbies? I always put down reading and writing, and writing is not something I've really done all that much, especially recently, and I feel like I want to get back into it, but I don't know what to write, so now I need a book on figuring that out. As for the shows I watched this week, we caught up on the new season of Futurama. I believe we kind of skipped a couple of previous weeks, so we had 3 episodes to catch up on, and the only episode that's really sticking in my mind right now is the Mamazon episode. I feel like the show has a cheeky thing here or there about how it's a new season, but it's not as in your face as the first few episodes, which I really appreciate, because if it was just harping on that the whole season, then it would not be as enjoyable, I think. Well, there was also a very big episode to do with Nibbler, which is a character I had completely forgotten about because I hadn't actually seen Futurama in a very long time. I also watched the remaining episodes of the first and only season of Dancing Queen. This last episode actually ended on a cliffhanger, which pissed me off because I knew they're never doing another season. Like, this season is from 2018, and I wanted to know who was going to make it into the next elite troupe. So much so that I actually went through the backlist of their Instagram to try to figure it out, and I didn't figure it out completely because there wasn't a post being like, this is our elite traveling squad or anything like that, but at least a dancer that I really enjoyed from the show definitely was still dancing there and graduated from there eventually. So I was able to get that type of closure, I guess. But ending it that way, seriously, what were you thinking? The first audiobook I finished this week I actually probably finished last Sunday, so I was like, oh really, this is from this week? Which is why I take meticulous notes, otherwise I would completely forget what I've read. That audiobook is The Story of Us by Hernandez, and also read by Hernandez. The point of view character in this is an infant, and she actually remembers everything from her mother's life and many things from her grandmother's life because she was inside of those people in a very, very small form before she was born, and she's trying to recount this information to whoever will listen before she forgets it, because as infants grow up they kind of forget the things they knew from being inside somebody else's body. Through this lens we get to know about her grandmother back in the Philippines and how her life went, and also mostly to do with her mother and the sacrifices she made for her family in the Philippines and how she ended up working in Canada as a carer. This is an interesting and complex story where sometimes you just want to slap some of the characters that are mistreating her mother because you're just so mad that people are like this. There's definitely more than once where her mother goes through financial abuse, and that's just terrible. terrible and I hate it. There's also other people that try to take advantage of her in other ways, and I also hate that. There's also things in here that have to do with gender expression and sexuality, and I really loved seeing all of that come together in this story. The other audiobook I listened to this week is A House with Good Bones. This one is by Kingfisher. It's a horror book, and I very much enjoyed it. The point of view character of this one is a woman named Samantha. She is an archaeologist, but she's more niche than that. She actually studies the bugs in archaeological dig sites, and she was supposed to be at this site for about 6 months, so she subletted her place, but as she was getting ready to drive to the site, they found some human remains and they have to be investigated and that type of thing, so she can't go to the dig right now because these are much more recent human remains than the ones that she deals with. So she ends up visiting her mother, who's actually been living in the same house for a very long time since her grandmother passed and passed it on to her. There was also a brief time when her grandmother was alive that Samantha, her brother, and her mother actually lived in this house with the grandmother, so she has some memories of her grandmother, who was a little bit quirky and maybe not the greatest person, but they had to make it work. Part of the reason she's visiting her mom, besides the fact that her place has been subletted, is the fact that her brother has basically been like, I think something's off with mom, but I can't figure it out, so like, can you maybe investigate and see if you're seeing the same things as me? And when she gets there, she does realize some things are a little bit weird. One of my favorite things about this horror story is how funny Samantha is. There were several things that she kind of was thinking in her brain, or just the situations that happened, that made me laugh while I was walking around listening to this audiobook, which is something I love. When a horror book can make me laugh, that's like perfect gold for me. There was also this moment where it seemed like they were defeating the big bad of what was happening in this book, and I was like, yes, okay, maybe I can finish this book while I'm making my dinner. Let me just see how much of the audiobook is left. And there was over an hour left, and then I got really, really scared. For good reason, actually. So I loved that extra layer of danger. I've only read one other Kingfisher, but now I feel like I need to read all of them. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!